Welcome to Uncommon Analysis. Well, today I got a little clip from a gentleman who was interviewed on Amanpour and Company regarding what he considers a polluted information environment and how it affected the election. So let's hear what he had to say, and then we'll talk about it.
You recently wrote about what you call the polluted information environment that shaped this election. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think that if we step back, after an election, people talk about how voters decided to support whichever candidate they ended up casting their ballot for, and I think we need to think about why they felt certain issues, align more with the candidate that they chose, and that comes down to the information they're consuming. That really helps shape, I think, a lot of these issues and the way they perceive them. And so if you look at the information environment that people are living in every single day, it's very polluted. It's no longer dominated by news organizations that have high standards, that fact check, that really aim to get things right. You have a lot of talkers out there, podcasters, people who are intentionally dishonest, partisan, and this really seeps into the public consciousness in a way, and I think influences how people vote. And so when I say polluted information environment, I mean that a lot of the things that people are hearing are either not true or they're heavily distorted because people that are pushing them have an agenda.
Okay, so there we have it. Now, so his premise is that because we now have had the democratization of information in the news, quote unquote, and where people get their information from, it's no longer controlled by, what did he call them? Authoritative people, professionals, people trying to get it right, making their best efforts to get it right. I won't argue that the democratization of anything leads to a lot of chaos. When you lower the barriers of entry, chaos ensued. So I want to argue with his general consensus, or his general thing, that when you democratize news or democratize anything, chaos is going to somewhat ensue because you lower the barrier of entry. Anybody can get involved. Even schlubs like me can get involved and have a voice. Now, whether people tune in or not, that's another story. But I have a voice that at least can put it out there into the public consciousness if it's that they choose to consume it. The problem I have, so that in and of itself isn't a bad argument. The problem I have, though, is that his argument presumes that the professional news organizations that we had up until very, very recently had high professional standards, tried to get it right, fact checked, when we know damn well they didn't. They didn't have a high standard. They didn't live up to those standards. They didn't fact check. And I'm going to go through some examples, just probably a handful or two examples, just that have come up in the last few years, and there's millions of them. So people did go elsewhere. They went elsewhere because these authoritative people were lying to them. And they've been lying to them for years. There's nothing new here. It's just now there are alternate viewpoints. They said the same things about talk radio, right? Talk radio ended the monopoly on information. Now, they hated Rush Limbaugh. They hated the right because the right dominated talk radio. It was one of the few parts of the media cultural infosphere in the modern era where it was not dominated by leftist ideas since like at least the mid 70s and 80s. So they hated that too. Now, I'm not defending every talk radio personality. I'm certainly not defending every blog writer or YouTube celebrity or TikToker that puts out information. Yes, there is bias, but they say this as if though somehow this bias never existed before, or that yellow journalism never existed before, right? It's an old saying: never get into a fight with someone who buys ink by the barrel. Why? Because that person, this is back before television, obviously, and news and broadcast news and radio, everything was in print, so they could print whatever they wanted about you and smear you to death, because all they wanted was what their side of the story, and that's the problem. That's the problem with the curated news, the professional news, is they were not trustworthy. And they have not been trustworthy for quite some time, particularly among anything related to politics. Let's just go back. I'm going to go through some examples. Let's go just through a few examples. I can say where this idea that the professionals, news organizations, got it right, made an effort to get it right. Not, because sometimes you're going to get it wrong no matter what. I can overlook you make a mistake, but where they flagrantly didn't bother to try to get it right, right? Let's start out with the whole Russia collusion thing. Let's talk about, 2016, 2015, right? This is a particular targeted emails about in Russia, about talking about Kim in Russia. Bullshit. Total bullshit. The Steele dossier, all of it. Bullshit. And it was obvious bullshit. The press didn't care. They ran with it anyway, right? Or how about this guy? Remember this guy? Remember this?
Nick Sandmann, vilified by some, defended by others, and according to his attorneys, defamed by several national news outlets. Late this afternoon, Sandmann's attorney confirmed to us his client has reached a settlement with CNN over its coverage. You'll likely remember this video. Sandmann, who was then a junior at Covington Catholic High School on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, face to face with Native American protester Nathan Phillips. Sandmann was with a group from CovCath that had just taken part in the National Right to Life March when the students were approached by a crowd, including Phillips. This video went viral and drew intense coverage, including from CNN.
So, if you don't remember that, there's a synopsis. These Indian protesters, Native American protesters, got in these kids' faces, acted like idiots, filmed it, then portrayed it as if the kids were actually the ones at fault and were instigating them. Complete lies. The full video showed it. The full video was available online, yet the press ran with it because it fit the narrative they wanted, right? Overprivileged white kids being jerks. Overprivileged white men, boys being jerks, right? They didn't give a shit about the truth. Did not care about the truth. They didn't bother to try to be right. They had a story, it fit the narrative they wanted to tell, and they jumped on it. Or how about this idiot? Around how long talking about the Steele dossier, lied out his ass. Lied out his ass. And did they challenge him on it? No, they let him repeat these lies. The Steele dossier was garbage. Anybody who did any kind of research knew it was funded and part of the Clinton campaign. And yet they ran with it. This went on for years. They tried to trigger an impeachment over this crap, right? And where does he finally get called out on it? The View? This is where he finally gets called out on it?
So I want to ask you about something that's in the news a lot right now. You've been really prolific over the past few years being the head of the Intel Committee, and you've defended, promoted, you even read into the congressional record the Steele dossier. And we know last week the main source of the dossier was indicted by the FBI for lying about most of the key claims in that dossier. Do you have any reflections on your role in promoting this to the American people?
Well, first of all, whoever lied to the FBI or lied to Christopher Steele should be prosecuted, and they are. And unlike in the Trump administration, if they're convicted, they should go to jail, not be pardoned. So Donald Trump pardoned Roger Stone for lying. He pardoned Michael Flynn for lying. If people lied to the FBI, they should go to jail. But at the beginning of the Russia investigation, I said that any allegations should be investigated. We couldn't have known, for example, people were lying to Christopher Steele. So it was
yes, you could have. It was known. You fucking lying piece of shit.
What we learned in that investigation. We learned that the chairman, Paul Manafort, was giving internal polling data, campaign polling data, to Russian intelligence while Russian intelligence was helping the Trump campaign.
And to be clear, he was fired halfway through the campaign.
Well, he may have been fired,
yeah.
But the effort to get Russian help continued, and even beyond the effort to get
still
Russian
lying.
help.
But you
still fucking lying. Still lying to this day.
Disinformation yourself for years by promoting this. I think that's what Republicans and what people who entrusted you as the Intel Committee chair are so confused about your culpability in all of this.
Well, I completely disagree with your premise.
Of course he does. Of course he does. They never questioned this man. They never questioned any of the crap that came out of his mouth. They let him lie on national TV, on every talk show. They never questioned anything came out of his mouth because it fit the narrative. Orange man bad. Everybody knew the Clintons were behind that. Everybody. But did they talk about it? No. Don't talk to me about professional standards and trying to get it right, okay? Here we go. How about this one? Remember this lie about Charlottesville, where they lied for years and years and years and just kept lying? About Trump saying they're good people on both sides when he clearly condemned the neo-Nazis and anybody engaged in racial hatred and violence. Clearly, multiple times. But here we are, right? It's Snopes finally. It's so ridiculous. Snopes finally called it false, although it took him years to finally go around and say it. Should have been instantaneous. These lying sacks of crap. They knew what he said. He was on the record. His tape was on the record. He was in front of cameras when he said his full statements. Yet they lied continuously and let this lie continue because it fit the narrative they wanted. So again, Why would anybody rely on their professional news organizations? They're lying sacks of shit. What's next? Let's see what else we can find. Okay, let's see. Okay, we'll talk about January 6th, right? As we know, January 6th happened. This is actually Trump's tweet. It was taken down almost instantly because they took him off the platform, right? Please support the police, law enforcement. They're truly on our side. Stay peaceful. Again, respect the law and order. Great men, the blue. Remain peaceful. Here's him complaining about the election outcome, and it's been stolen from, which is fine. But as you can see, this is him saying, be peaceful. Yet what do they say? Oh, he's trying just to stir up an insurrection. And it's just lies. It's lies. You could say Trump's behavior could have been better, but we found so many things about January 6th were just total, complete lies. And how about this one? And you think I'm just going back to 2000? Let's go back just a couple weeks ago. Here we go. Just a couple weeks ago. They portrayed this. I'm going to put the full Trump statement. The full Trump statement. They attempted to portray this as Trump calling for Cheney's assassination. Now, I want you to listen to what he actually said. This is what he actually said.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face. You know, they're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy. But she's a stupid person.
There you go. So now you've heard that. Do you think Trump's saying, let's put her in front of a firing squad? Let's kill her? Or do you think Trump's saying she is quick to go to war, and it's really easy to go to war when you're not the person that's actually going to end up getting killed? It's really easy to send young men off to die when you're not the person that's going to actually have to face the bullets. Which of those two would you say Trump just said? The prior, hey, let's line up 9 people to execute Liz Cheney, or basically Liz Cheney's a war hawk. And it's real easy to be a war hawk to send other people off to fight and die when you're not the one that actually has to pay the price for it. You're not the one on the firing line. You're not the one on the battlefield being shot at. Which one of those, listening to what Trump said, would you assume that is? A rational thinking person? Of course it's the latter one. Yet that doesn't stop the media and MSNBC and all these other folks. You want to see how they introduced this? Here's how they introduced it.
The Drudge report up, obviously a conservative website
is a lying sack of shit.
That talks about Donald Trump calling for Cheney's execution, talking about 9 rifles aimed at her face and shooting at her face. Let's listen to Donald Trump's own words.
Now, I just played it. So did that sound like Trump called for her execution? Of course not. Of course not. And this doofus knows it. He knows it. But he's got to pander to his audience because orange man bad. You're liars. These are the supposedly professional ones trying their best to get it right. They're not trying to get it right. They've lost all credibility because of this nonsense, which is why people have gone out and found alternate news sources out on the internet and other places that this guy's lamenting about in the original, he's lamenting this information, right? This polluted informational environment this guy's talking about. Why are people out there looking at YouTube? Because they know they're being lied to. They know they can't trust the media. And this goes more than just Trump. I mean, Trump has just been the one who's been able to expose the bulk of it in an amazing way. But people are tuning in these alternate news sources because these people cannot be trusted. They're liars. And people know they're liars. Right? I can tell you, I am an election nerd. Me personally, I'm an election nerd. I've followed politics. I've followed professional election. Every 4 years is like my Super Bowl. And I have followed them since about 1988, right? I wasn't even allowed to vote in 1988, but I still followed it, right? These people are liars. They've just lied. So yes, democratization of the news does have its downside, right? There are people that just tell you what you want to hear. There are certainly pundits and people who just are going to lie to your face because they want to. But the media has been doing that for years. The professional media has been doing that for years. They are biased. Don't believe me? Let's go back and forth. Let's forget Trump. Let's go back in time. Let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to 1992. Okay? Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton's running for the White House. The philandering of Bill Clinton is notorious. It's known all across Arkansas. The media knew about Jennifer Flowers. They knew about Paula Jones. And they damn well knew about Juanita Broderick as well. And they squashed it all as much as they could. Juanita Broderick wasn't even mentioned in the national news. But she was known about. That rape was known about. And they covered it up to get him elected. They lied, cheated, and stole to try to help Clinton win the White House. These people have been lying to you for decades. There's nothing new here. The only difference is now you have a choice. And the choice isn't some like small distributed right wing magazine nobody's ever heard of, right? It's out there it's out there. It's democratized. It's democratized. People can find information. Now, it's up to them to filter and decide who's right and who's wrong. And there's a whole lot of people. I guarantee before Tuesday there were a whole lot of people that were subscribing to a whole lot of nonsense on the left who've wised up. Right? Now, traditionally, news organizations lose followers after the election, right? Because the election is a big deal. Everybody pays attention. And after, oh, you can drop off. But look what happened. It's dropped off huge for MSNBC and CNN. Way more than just people aren't paying attention to the election anymore. Way more because they lied. MSNBC in particular lied. They lied and lied and lied and lied and lied. But those are the people. Oh my goodness, we have a polluted informational environment. That's why. That's what affected them. That's why Harris lost, or at least a contributing factor in the outcome. Guys, you want people to trust you. You can't lie to them. And you've shown repeatedly you cannot be trusted. You have lied repeatedly. We can go back further time. Remember we can go back to the exploding pickup trucks, right? We staged the exploding pickup truck for the video. You can see the heart puff going on. The planting of maggots at Food Lion, right, to make it look like they're uncleanly they are. All kinds of stuff. This is what you guys did for years and years and years. You pick out a narrative, and you would try to portray that narrative through any reporting. Whether it was true or not didn't matter. If things didn't fit the narrative, you would ignore them. If things fit the narrative, you would highlight them. So please, please, yes, there are far more places you can get your news. You can completely be lied to off your ass if you're not smart. You can certainly buy into and be fed a lot of crap and suck it down. But don't think that the professional journalists were ever trying to get it right, particularly around anything regarding politics, because it's not. They haven't. They by and large have not. So, what do you think? Do you think this guy's right? Do you think that the news organizations have been honest, truthful, and they are better at presenting information? Or are you like me and have realized they lie to us repeatedly about many, many things? And yes, it is dangerous to go out there on the internet and start to trust people to provide you information. There are liars, there are cheaters, there are thieves, there are people pursuing their own interests of not telling you the truth. But for me, I'll take the democratized version over what we had before, which was three networks and a handful of cable news networks that basically controlled the narrative, knew they controlled the narrative, and could spin whatever they wanted. And you just had to accept it because you had no alternate to it. So, yep, freedom isn't easy, guys. Anyway, any comments or thoughts on that? Please down below. And if you like this kind of video, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you, guys. Have a great day. I'm out.